Welcome to the Place Retreats podcast. I'm your host, psychotherapist Jean-Claude Chalmet, and every week I'm joined by my friends, comedian Amy Cooper and psychotherapy student Louise Daniels, for often fun, always insightful discussions, exploring the intricate landscapes of the mind and the heart, the complexities of the human experience. Today, we're exploring the complex emotions and experiences that arise when we feel disconnected from others. Join us as we discuss therapeutic strategies to help you navigate feelings of loneliness and cultivate meaningful connections in your life.
Oh, this is a good one, isn't it? I guess we are talking about loneliness. I mean, at my point in life, I'm kind of like, I would actually quite like to feel loneliness. I just feel so overwhelmed by
people.
I'm just like, will everybody just go away?
Yeah.
But I know that it is quite a sort of a serious subject, and it is a bit of an epidemic, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah.
Let's just start by unpacking then. How does loneliness impact somebody's mental health and their emotional well-being? And I guess what are the things that we can, what are the common signs that we can look out for that would reveal that someone was experiencing like profound feelings of loneliness?
It's a very good question. It's a quite complex and intricate subject. So, if we think about it in an era, which is what I always say here at the retreat or in practice in London, I say in the world of technology where we are so connected or interconnected, we are more disconnected than ever. And
yes, you have said that before. It's so true. Yeah.
Loneliness has paradoxically emerged as a widespread growing concern because it's all around us. And despite we have this illusion, of this constant connection, WhatsApp, TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is. And we are able to connect with each other, social media and, a lot of people. And this is what I hear every day here in the retreat and in the practice, many people report that they feel profoundly disconnected. And, I don't think they're not talking about a fleeting emotion. It's a sort of deep-seated sense of isolation, and it can have very far-reaching consequences on their mental health and even physical well-being, and also the quality of their lives. And I think that conversely, these meaningful social connections that we establish, and certainly for people of our ilk, we learn before mobile telephone and computers and all these apps, I think that we learn to have these social connections, and they are vital for emotional resilience, for our psychological stability, and even longevity. That's how far-reaching it is. And, I think, it's a very intricate relationship between loneliness and social connection. And I think that's what we should be looking at, and what profound effects that can have on mental health. And, hopefully I can help with some actionable strategies to cultivate deeper and more fulfilling relationships through this podcast. So I think the first thing we need to do, Amy, and you asked it so beautifully, is understanding loneliness. What is it? And it's a complex and subjective emotional state, which we could say is best characterized by or perceived like, a lack of meaningful social connections. And so I think it's crucial that we distinguish loneliness from solitude. They are two very, very different things.
Yeah, you can be in a room with 100 people, couldn't you? At work or in a social situation, and feel just desperately lonely.
But solitude is something that can be a positive and enriching experience.
Love a
we
bit
might
solitude.
do that for.
I crave solitude.
There you are. And so when you said earlier on, I want to be alone, or I want loneliness. No, you want solitude. It's sought for reflection and for relaxation.
JC, when you say it, it sounds so like I want to be alone. I'm just like, will everybody fuck off? That's it's so different. Maybe I need to employ a dramatic strategy.
Yeah.
Wasn't that Marlene Dietrich that said, "I want
Yes.
to be alone"? So, but then loneliness, however, arises when there's I would say, like a discrepancy between the social interactions that we desire and the ones we experience.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the feeling of being, I would say, unseen, unheard, unsupported. And as you said, that can even happen in a crowd.
Yeah. That can even happen in a relationship, can't it?
Yeah.
I think it happens very often in a relationship. If you came to sit for a week here in our offices, you know?
Yeah, you must see
But
this
then-
all the time in your practice.
Is that the kind of sorry, can I just ask slightly when you see couples, is that kind of usually what the crux is with their issues, if they're having issues with each other, that they feel unseen, unheard, unsupported?
That's usually when it's almost too late to save the relationship.
Right. Okay.
Because
right.
then
Yeah, that
indifference
apathy, I
has
guess,
set
has sat in, hasn't it?
Apathy and indifference has set in. But what I would say for most couples, it's a lack of communication. And that can feel very isolating, especially if one of the partners uses stonewalling.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
And
or
that
one
can
of
be
them
very, very...
likes to offload her feelings quite a lot, and the other one doesn't, and that's frustrating, I would imagine. Paul's just like, I just like to offload my feelings a lot. Like, we wake up in the morning, have our cup of tea in bed. That's my offloading my feelings time.
I wish you could see what is happening here in Bali. There's somebody standing on the other side of the room going. When I said about the stonewalling.
Yeah, do you stonewall, JC? You being a
Samar does.
Oh, does Samar does? Oh, okay.
Samar does. Yes,
I wouldn't
Samar
describe
is
what
very
Paul does
good
as stonewalling, because he does really try, but he just like,
not hard
there's
enough. Obviously,
there's
Louise.
just not as much
Not
going on in
enough.
his head as there is in my head. It would seem, he's just like,
we
I
could
think
take that in
everything's
very
fine.
many
And
ways,
like,
Louise.
No,
we could take that in very many ways.
Yeah, I'd love to have his simple, empty little head. Sorry, I did interrupt
come back.
you. Go on.
There's going to be so much cutting in this program by the producer.
Leave it all in, Paul.
What I think we should talk about is what are the types of loneliness? Because for me, there are three distinct types. One is emotional loneliness, then there's social loneliness, and then there is existential loneliness.
Right.
So if we talk about emotional loneliness, that's that kind of loneliness that stems from an absence of close emotional bonds. And it's that longing that you have for a deep connection with someone who truly understands and supports you. Someone that can meet you where you are. And that can be a partner, can be a family member, can be a close friend. But emotional loneliness, I would say, is most keenly felt after the loss of a loved one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or during periods of emotional isolation.
Emotional isolation?
Yes.
What do you mean?
People that in the winter, older people, cannot go outside because they have a sedentary lifestyle, or people that are ill and very few people come to visit them, That's what I would call emotional isolation.
Okay.
And then there's a second type of loneliness, which is what we call social loneliness. And that occurs when an individual lacks a broader social network.
Right.
So it's the feeling of not belonging, to a
Yes.
community, to a group,
Yeah.
to a circle of friends.
Yeah.
And that's very common amongst those who have moved like to a new city
Yeah.
or retired. They don't have the social interaction anymore at the workplace. Or they have experienced a significant life change that disrupts their social ties to people. A breakup, or and they take themselves out of the equation, so to speak. They don't want to meet friends that know both of them, and so on. And don't feel ready to meet other people and spill the beans of what has happened to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's, of course, existential loneliness, which is a sort of more deeper, more philosophical form of loneliness. And that can come out of a sense of disconnection from the world, or perhaps a feeling of purposelessness.
Okay.
And I think that comes often with existential crises or moments of profound self-reflection, where individuals question their place in the universe. What am I doing here? What is the point? What is my purpose? What is my mission in this life? And so people can go away and isolate themselves and, can feel existentially lonely in that moment.
Right.
And so all of these forms of loneliness, of course, have an impact. And definitely on mental health and also on physical health. So, we need to look that loneliness is not just an emotional burden. It's a significant risk factor for a range of mental and physical health issues.
Right.
Yeah.
And
there's definitely a knock-on effect, isn't there?
Totally.
There must
totally.
be.
And chronic loneliness can trigger an absolute domino effect of negative things. And that can be, if we look at it from a mental health, depression and anxiety, low self-esteem, and even, especially in elderly people, cognitive decline.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then on the physical health consequences, there have been studies done that link chronic loneliness to a weakened immune system,
Yeah.
cardiovascular issues, because they get higher blood pressure, increased stress levels, and therefore a greater risk of heart disease. And then, of course, reduced lifespan. There are studies that have shown that loneliness can be as harmful to one's mental health and physical health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, significantly shortening life expectancy.
Wow.
And so it's a very complex, and issue, and the cyclical nature of loneliness, has a profound impact on both mental and physical health. And so, as we all three of us know, lonely individuals, they will withdraw from social interactions. They are afraid of fear of rejection, judgment. That deepens their sense of isolation and exacerbating mental health challenges. And it makes a lot of sense if we put it like this, but it's really something that is happening every single day, and most of the time we don't even notice it.
I guess it becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, doesn't it?
Totally.
Because if every time you try to have that social interaction, it causes you more stress
Absolutely.
or anxiety, then you say, well, I'm not going to do that anymore.
I remember just before I started therapy in the 80s, there were times that I would go shopping at Marks and Spencer's on Marble Arch on a Friday night. And I was living by myself. And I would buy an entire cart of food, to have the illusion that I was not alone. And sometimes I would stop myself and look at it and see all these people rushing around for their family weekends with carts full of food. And I would just burst out in tears.
Oh
God.
And I would literally come home and stuff the entire fridge with food that I would then give away because, of course, I couldn't eat it.
So those three types of loneliness: emotional, social, existential. What role do past experiences and like attachment styles, when we're babies, children, or relationship patterns, what role do they play in shaping what our experience or an individual's experience of loneliness will be?
Well, definitely, as you know, as John Bowlby says, there are three types of attachments, which is secure, insecure, and avoidant. And then there are all the ones in between. But, people that have insecure attachment or avoidant attachment are, of course, at greater risk of suffering from loneliness.
And has that stemmed from how they were? Does that stem from when they were babies, children,
Always.
their relationships with their
As John Bowlby
parents?
says, our attachment style is determined in the first 3 years of infancy.
Yeah.
And that will determine the type of attachment styles that you will have throughout your life.
Yeah.
Unless you really work very hard and you bring the subconscious to the conscious, and you are able to grow, evolve, and learn new ways of or modifying the ways of attachment. It takes a lot of hard work.
Yeah. So,
So in order to combat loneliness, I think we need to look at something called the power of social connection.
Yeah, I mean, when I was young, I'm sure there is a difference, isn't there, between, like, I think you touched on it earlier. When I was young, we would meet, we would obviously see each other, we would have long telephone conversations, and now it seems to me that lots of young people, and even it happens to me now as well. I'm like, if somebody's calling me, I'm like, oh, bloody hell, what are they calling me for? I don't want to actually talk. I'm like, can you not just send me a message? Let's have a conversation on WhatsApp. And I guess that is, having an
it's
impact.
a habit that you have to almost make. You have to. It's like working the muscle at the gym, isn't it? I think if you're so right, Louise. I really have to gear myself up and put my big girl pants on for a conversation, because I'm kind of like, so it's almost like a habitual thing that you need to keep on top of, to practice. But you're right, I would sit on the stairs for hours and talk to my friends who I've been at school with all day,
and then be on the phone for hours in the evening.
God knows what we were talking about. Yeah.
And there it is, the power of social connection. It's an absolute lifeline for mental health. It's the absolute contrast of loneliness. Is social connection is a fundamental human need. And it's an absolute cornerstone of mental health and wellness.
So whilst we've got connections and communities online, because I'm thinking about like those people who maybe just had a baby and they can reach out online and find people who are at the exact same stage as them, no matter where they are in the world, and be able to connect online. That cannot replace, though, the social interaction of being
not
either talking to,
but it can help someone in the moment.
Yes.
When they are feeling
so
very,
it's
very
important
lonely.
to differentiate the difference between that kind of support and the benefits, and there are indeed benefits of it, but also that we need to be, how can people sort of actively work on building and maintaining social connections when so many interactions are carried out online?
By making an effort.
It really is.
It does come down to feeling a bit lazy.
We are herd animals. Humans are herd animals. We are inherently social beings, and we are wired to seek connection and belonging. So meaningful relationships give you emotional support. They reduce stress, not always, as we know. And they can foster a sense of purpose.
I'm thinking about like a lot of women who, they are in big friendship groups, and then they have their children, and obviously that is all consuming when you're bringing up kids, and it's harder to sort of make the effort to meet up with your friends when you've got childcare responsibilities, and then you find that by the time the kids get a bit older, everybody's kind of moved on a bit, and it's quite hard. Do you find that, Louise? I know you're really good at sort of.
Do you know? I was just thinking as you were saying that. No, I didn't find that but I think because when my children were very little, we lived like on a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, and there were other friends that I met at the playgroup, and they all we all lived in the middle of nowhere, and so we had to make a massive effort. Like, you couldn't just go, together. Oh yeah, I'll text you and we'll go out for a drink. It was like we couldn't get a taxi where we were. You had to book it like 2 weeks in advance. So
wow,
it was, everything was, so we would have, and I remember we had this, and again, it was just before we started getting mobile phones. Like, for a long time, I didn't have a mobile phone when the kids were very little. And we used to go to Toddlers in Dallington Village Hall. And then in the summertime, we would have Toddlers in Gardens, which was the most wonderful. I just loved it. And when everybody would take it in turns to host toddlers in their garden, and we'd all turn up with cake and spend the whole afternoon, mums chatting, toddlers running around having a nice time. And I don't see that sort of thing happening so much. And yeah, of course, it was a lot of work for whoever was having everybody in their garden, but then you knew that next week somebody else would be doing it, and there was a lot of effort into. I would invite, the kids always had friends back for tea, and if they had friends back for tea, quite often, their mummies would come and have a glass of wine with me, and
yeah.
So, at the same time,
as you were describing that, I think that would be some people's idea of absolute hell. So yes. Is there an element of being, if you're a sociable person and you like being around people, you're less likely to feel lonely because you make the effort to maintain
and
those
it's
friendships?
About making effort, isn't it? It's because it is always effort.
Yeah.
Much more effort than sitting on the sofa just WhatsApping someone. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's true.
Are you prepared to make that effort?
And then realize, Louise, what you are saying. What are the benefits of social connection? I think it's emotional support, stress reduction, improved self-worth, resilience, physical health benefits. I think that's why you made the effort, because when we talk about emotional support, having someone to share your joys and your sorrows with, it can help you to navigate life's challenges a lot more effectively. And so I think that emotional support acts as a buffer zone against stress and adversity, because a problem shared is a problem halved.
Yeah. So you almost have to I guess not force yourself to be sociable, but certainly, even if I mean,
make
even now, I'm quite a. I'm one of those people who, if I've made arrangements, I'm kind of like, well, no, if we've made arrangements, I'm not cancelling those arrangements. That's what we've said we're going to do, and I'm going to do that. But I do get that feeling leading up to it of like, and then when they message me and go, oh, I'm so sorry, things are a bit of a nightmare, can we take a rain check? And I'm like, I do the rain check dance. I do the rain. I'm kind of like, oh, thank God, I retain a little bit. I retain my social currency, like not being a flake or whatever.
Cancelled. No,
I haven't cancelled.
God, it's marvellous when plans are cancelled, isn't it?
And you're gifted a night in, or that's. But I think it's quite interesting how that leads into, because if you just keep cancelling or keep being cancelled on, or you don't make the effort, and that is what sometimes happens, especially when you've got other things to prioritize. If you've got caring responsibilities, and it feels like there's no way that I could make a social arrangement. I've got responsibilities. I guess the cumulative effect of that, the eventual effect of that is, as we're discussing, these really quite serious kind of lonely, like you say, a deep rooted loneliness, isolation.
That's why we always have to remember the benefits of social connection, And as I was explaining, the emotional support and also stress reduction. I mean, social interactions actually trigger the release of oxytocin.
Yeah.
Which is often referred to as, the love hormone.
Yeah.
But it promotes feelings of trust, of relaxation, bonding, togetherness.
Mm.
And, it will also help you with improved self-worth. I mean, positive relationships reinforce your sense of value, your sense of belonging. And that boosts your self-esteem and confidence as a natural result. And then obviously resilience, a strong social network will provide you with a safety net, when you are in difficult times. And it can help you to bounce back from setbacks and cope with adversity, as we all have to do in life.
Yeah.
And then obviously the physical health benefits are, socially connected individuals, I believe tend to have better immune function, lower blood pressure, and I believe consequently a reduced risk of chronic illnesses. So there's a lot.
There's so many benefits, aren't there? I mean, I'm just thinking, JC, are there any kind of like, I guess if people are being held back by sort of past wounds and
I think it's simpler than that, Amy. We don't need to go that deep when we talk about the loneliness epidemic. The question that we obviously have to ask is, why are we so lonely? And I would say that there are 4 main culprits.
Go on then. Break it down for us, JC.
If you we hear about the digital age of connectivity. As I said at the beginning, many people say that they are more lonely than ever. And I think that the paradox lies in superficial connections. Definitely with social media often replaces deep, meaningful interactions with superficial ones.
Right.
Likes, comments, emojis, they cannot replace the emotional depth of a face-to-face communication and conversation. The presence, the energy that you feel of the other person, the exchange that happens. And then busy lifestyles. Modern life today is fast-paced, leaving little time to nurture relationships. You have work demands, family responsibilities, other commitments, and they often take precedence over socializing. It's just
keeping
how
up with
it
your
is.
superficial connections as well. You like that because that does all take time.
It's a full-time job.
Yeah. So and then, busy. People are busy.
Yeah. And then I would say number 3 for me is urbanization.
Right.
Living in crowded cities can ironically lead to a sense of and feelings of isolation.
Well, isn't it funny because that what I was sort of saying earlier, that it felt like because we all lived in the middle of nowhere, like, and we weren't all on.
You had to make an effort.
We had to make an effort, and it just was very different to when I lived in Tunbridge Wells and could just see people like that. It just But sorry, I've interrupted. So that was 3.
No, I mean, urban environments often lack a sense of community. We all know that.
Yeah.
And people may not know their neighbors or feel connected to their surroundings. They're just rushing in and out and, being at home and don't want to do anything, want to watch Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, I do like watching Netflix, but also,
And we all do, but, And then, of course, the last point, the stigma of admitting to feeling lonely.
Yeah.
It can be difficult because society doesn't like people that are lonely.
It's not sexy, is it?
No,
it's not sexy.
Many people, many people fear being judged, or perceived as weak, and so it prevents them from seeking help or making the effort. So it then becomes, as you said, a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you get into that spiral.
Right.
Yeah. I was just going to say, it does go back to effort. You get out what you put in, because I was just thinking about, there is that stereotype of living in London. You don't even know your neighbours. You don't see your neighbours. I mean, I used to wait. If I went to leave my flat and I heard someone else in the corridor, I would just give it a minute, wait for them to walk, close the door behind the main communal door, and then leave. Because the worst thing in the world I'd want to do is bump into my neighbour. Now, obviously, that's when I was like in my early 20s, and she was probably in fact, God, looking back, she was an older woman, lived on her own. She was a lovely woman, and she used to refer to herself as the old crow in the attic because she was like a woman in her late 50s. and how awful is that of me to think, I'm going to avoid going out because I don't really want to get into a conversation with Anne, because probably she was, when we did get into a conversation, it was quite a lengthy one. Yeah, exactly. And I'm finding that I'm like that now. I'll be like, the woman at the checkout is like, right, go on, you need to go now. You need to go now.
I've always been quite chatty. I like to chat. I made an absolute twat of myself we've moved to a little place called Conkwell, where there are 9 little houses, 9 little old stone cottages, and they have a WhatsApp group, and somebody put on it, it's time to arrange our Conkwell Christmas dinner. And I just was straight in there with, yep, we'll host, we'll do it, and it turned out like there were far too many people going to be coming. I couldn't fit them all in, and somebody else does it every year anyway. And I'd just gone, because I was so overexcited. Anyway, and now there's...
So were they like, sorry, Louise, no, that's not the way it works?
They were very kind. They were very nice, and let me just figure it out for myself.
Did you have to go to Hartley Farm Shop and Kitchen?
Yeah, how do you know about Hartley Farm Shop? I love Hartley Farm. That's my local. You're looking me up. Yes,
he's Googling.
That's a 20-minute walk away, Hartley Farm, and I mean the best butchers in this area, I have to say. But
you do get out what you put in, don't you? I guess.
And so everybody was very nice, and just waited for me to realise then how many people were coming. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to fit all of them for a sit-down meal in my little cottage. So we figured it out. But since then, now there's a Conkwell Curry Club. There's a Conkwell Book Club. Of course, I'm straight there with my hands up. Yes, I'll join. I've joined everything. I think you have to make an effort, don't you?
Well, that's also, exactly what... Sorry.
I think it can also, I have this expectation that I'm going to find my people immediately, and it doesn't usually work. Like what I've realised is that sometimes actually you need a bit of time. People aren't like you and me, Amy, just happy to share everything the minute, I mean, Christmas.
Once you find that person who is willing to just, okay, let's shortcut this. Weather's good, everyone's good. How are you feeling? Let's just deep dive straight away. And that's when you know that you've kind of connected with somebody. And it's so true. Those social connections are they do make you feel. They make your heart swell, don't they? When you
totally
have those lovely deep chats with somebody, or funny chats or whatever.
Yeah, and this is what we want. I would like to talk about is how to foster meaningful social connections.
Yeah,
right.
For people that are struggling with loneliness, you need to know that you're not alone, and there are steps that you can take to build stronger connections. And I would like to suggest 6 of them. One, I would say prioritize quality over quantity.
Yes, that was going to be my next question. Do I need hundreds of friends, or do I just need 4 really good ones? 3
or 4 good ones,
right. Yeah.
Focus on cultivating a few deep, meaningful relationships rather than numerous superficial ones.
Yeah.
Please invest your time and energy in people who genuinely care about you or are interested in you. The second thing, which is a bit more difficult, be vulnerable. Please share your thoughts and feelings openly with trusted individuals or people that you feel that you could trust. You will not always get it right.
No.
But the benefits outweigh the opposite.
That's a hard one, isn't it? How do you just be vulnerable if that's not your default thing? If you're quite a I guess that's what I was saying before. Maybe there is if there is past wounds or damage from earlier childhood, you put the walls up and you become defensive.
Is it better to be alone? Is it better to be lonely? Take the risk. You never know what might happen. Yes, some people will misuse it. Some people might even abuse it. But there are also a lot of good people out there. So I think that vulnerability fosters intimacy and trust. And it's the foundation for stronger connections. The third thing that I would say is join communities. Like Louise said, enjoy, book club, curry club, whatever it is, sports team, volunteer organizations, at least you have a shared interest and you have something, that you have in common, and already as a starting point to have conversation. It's a very good way of starting, building relationships. Number 4, I would say, which is very important, practice active listening. If you can, show genuine interest in others by listening attentively and emphatically. Ask questions. Engage in meaningful conversations.
About other people.
Be curious about other people, their lives, children, their hobbies, their friends, whatever it is. The 5th one, if possible, please limit screen time. Spend that time on building actual real life connections. Stop spending so much time on social media and prioritize speaking to someone, meeting people. Face-to-face communication always allows for deeper emotional connection. And then last one, if you're really, really struggling, seek professional help. If loneliness is overwhelming for you, consider speaking with a therapist or a counselor or a helpline, and they can help you to explore, what are the root causes of your loneliness and develop coping strategies. That's what they are there for.
Right.
Yeah. They're really good little, it's a nice little sort of, something we can easily refer back to, those 6 points. Thank you for that, JC.
And not only that, I think it's not only up to the individual, but we also have to say that when we address loneliness, I don't think it's just an individual responsibility. I think it's also a society one. We need to do more in communities. We need to do more in the workplaces, and even at government level. They can play a crucial role in fostering connections. We all know about community programs, neighborhood gatherings, street parties, support group, intergenerational activities, and that's all done to make, people get together and create a sense of belonging, because that's what we all crave.
So true.
I would say in the workplace, can we please have employers promote a sense of belonging by encouraging team building? Indonesia is very good at that here. They call it socialisasi, socialization. And, they organize things, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, for people to engage with each other, open communication, and hopefully also promote, a work-life balance. And then, of course, public awareness. I think that, that's very prevalent now in the Western world, campaigns to reduce the stigma of around loneliness, and to encourage people to seek help and support. But I think we need to start very early on with that, with education and the importance of social connection, and raise people's awareness on that.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny at the moment, just a bit of puppy chat. They say that the most important thing between 8 and 12 weeks for this puppy is to socialize it. Get it used to meeting other dogs, get it used to loud noises, get it used to like traffic whizzing by, small kids. And because it's in that hard wiring of the brain at that age. And obviously, I guess in dog years, for us, it's those early hard wiring of those neural pathways, isn't it? Of being able to reach out to
Absolutely.
people and connecting with people. But yeah, sometimes it goes horribly wrong. Sometimes she's just cowering behind my legs. Other times she's like got another puppy pinned down and like baring her teeth, and I'm kind of like, and it's enough to make you go, oh God, we're not doing that again. That was really, really stressful. I don't want to do that again. But you have to keep exposing them and hopefully you'll have a good experience, and then they can associate that with, oh, it's not scary. Or
and again, it's very similar to when you have, it just reminds me of when I had babies and we would all turn up and I had my like little group and we would just dump them all in a circle in the middle of the floor, when they were sitting up, like, boom, there we go, and they'd all be sat there, and sort of getting on with it, really,
just trying to work it out. I was also going to say as well, that there's an old saying, isn't there? No man is an island.
Yes.
Isn't that like
absolutely.
I'm not sure.
John Donne wrote that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, no man is an island.
Yeah. So I often find myself saying that to my dad. My dad's getting a lot of airplay on this podcast, and
does he see himself as a bit of an island, and he doesn't need
100%. Yeah. He's just like so I wonder, do you think that there is maybe, again, it's either nature, nurture, different factors, he has just become one of those people who is wants to be on his own or survive on his own, but he has had massive sort of health issues, and I wonder if that is connected to that. Obviously there's different factors. Do you think there are, I guess my question is, do you think there are just certain types of people who are just like, I'm happy on my own, I would rather be I don't want to make effort or talk to anyone?
Of course there are people like that, and we all know them. The question that I always want to ask, what happened to you? Because by nature, we are herd animals, and we need to understand that loneliness is a universal human experience, but it doesn't have to define your life. And some people just don't want to see the impact or take proactive steps and to build meaningful connections. They just are maybe tired of it, or they're not interested, or they don't want to make the effort. But I do believe that good social connections can enhance your mental health and improve your overall well-being. I don't think it's a luxury. I think it's a necessity to have social connections. And the world more and more feels fragmented. So reaching out to others and nurturing relationships can be, for me, a very powerful act of self-care. And it's definitely, in my honest opinion, a step forward towards a healthier and happier life. So I think we should prioritize connection, not just for ourselves, but for the collective well-being of our communities, of our families, of our friendship groups. We are all interconnected. And it's through those connections that we will find strength, joy, and purpose. For sure. And I think if you foster meaningful relationships and you dare to address the root causes of loneliness, we can create an amazing, more compassionate and connected world for the benefit of all. We hope today's episode has helped you gain a deeper understanding of loneliness and how you can nurture a sense of belonging and community.
If you enjoy the Place Retreats podcast, please take a moment to give it a rating and recommend it to your friends and family. It really does make a difference.
And you can email us and follow us all on Instagram. The details are in the show notes.